Hi there. Today we are working on Home Finance Lesson 5, Additional Costs in Purchasing a Home. Now, this is a super duper important topic because your home or your house or whatever is probably going to be the most expensive purchase you make. And when you make that purchase, you have to have a ton of cash in your pocket ready to go to pay for a bunch of these extra costs. The reason why we want to talk about that in this course is that we want you to walk away being financially literate and being able to make really good choices. So for example, I have this friend, she's one of my best friends, she's a wonderful person, but she's a little bad with money. She recently started a new job. She just kind of finished her training and she got into her career, which is awesome, very proud of her. And she's like, hey, I want to buy a house. And I was like, oh no, maybe that's not a good choice because there's so many costs that you need to have ready to go in savings, ready to spend. And I know she doesn't have that kind of money. So she ended up changing her mind and deciding to just rent, which I think is a great idea because she can't afford to buy a house right now. The worst situation you can get into is making financial commitments, like saying I'm going to do this or owing people money and then not being able to follow through on it. So buying a house and then not having enough money to pay for the house. That is not a fun place to be in. Okay, so there's a bunch of costs here. We're going to talk about each one and we will put just kind of a definition to each and then we'll go from there. So most of these, well, all of them are one-time costs. As in, when you go and talk to your lawyer and you settle everything, you're going to pay all this stuff once, and then you're not going to have to pay it again. Like, you don't have to pay it every month or anything like that. So it's just a one-time thing, and then it's done, which is nice, because it's a lot of money. First one is an appraisal fee. When you borrow money, the bank or the lender, like the credit union or whoever, they must determine the value of the home by hiring a certified appraiser. So sometimes they make you pay for this, sometimes it's just kind of built into their costs, it depends. Or if there's one that was done not that long ago. Basically, the bank wants to know how much your house is worth. Because if the house is selling for $200,000, but it's really only worth $100,000, the bank doesn't want to give you a loan for that because they just don't think it's worth that much. They're like, ooh, it's kind of not that nice of a house. We don't want you to have a giant loan for this house that's not worth very much. So they get a specific person, it's called an appraiser. They take a look over the house and they say, oh, it's worth this much. And if it's too much of a difference, they might say, we're not going to give you the loan for this. Okay, inspection cost. This is someone you hire. This is for existing issues or problems with construction. So if it's a house that's already there, they'll tell you about any issues that are there right now. Or if it's a brand new house, they'll tell you like, oh, they didn't build that right. So this is someone that you should hire before you buy a house. So when I bought this house, I gave them an offer and I said, hey, I'd really like to buy your house, but I need to have an inspector come through first, just to make sure that everything's okay in the house before I officially buy it from you. So I'm like really, really interested, but I just want to make sure. Sometimes people don't get the inspection. Maybe one reason is if you're really, really handy, like you're good at doing house stuff, maybe you would know what's wrong with the house on your own. I am not. I can fix some stuff, but I can't look at the foundation and tell you if it's good or not. And then the other reason is maybe the house is in really high demand, like everybody wants this house. Maybe you don't want to put like conditions in your offer because they could say, well, this person wants an inspection and this person doesn't. I'm going to go with the person who doesn't want an inspection because then the offer is going to go through. It's going to be no problem. Personally, I don't know enough about houses. I want to know everything that's wrong. And the company that I hire, they gave me a big binder filled with all the tiny things that are wrong with my house, because there's stuff that's wrong with it, and that's fine. They explained to me how severe each problem was, and then they told me about fixes for the problem. So one on my old house was the roof was starting to go. And I could see that because the shingles were starting to curl. And they kind of told me, like, it's going to cost this much to fix your roof. And I was okay with that because I knew about it going into the house. I never want to be in the situation where I buy this really expensive house and then there's a giant problem that I have to have fixed. That's not really the place I want to be. Okay. Property survey. You might have to pay for this. It might already be done, or it might just kind of get built into your other costs. A property survey is where they go and they look around the house and they take down info on how the buildings, the fences, and everything like that are situated on the property. So let's say, for example, if someone built a fence and they built it on their neighbor's property, well, you're not allowed to do that because that's not your property. The property survey will tell you about that. So if there was a fence built on the neighbor's, you might have to rip that fence down. Or you could give the neighbor some more money and then kind of make it not your problem anymore. But it's good to know about this type of stuff before you buy the house. Or for example, there's rules about how close your building can be to the property line. So if you build a brand new beautiful sunroom but it's too close to the fence, you can get in trouble for that one as well. So it's good to know about that before you go into it. So they will look over that with you. Okay. Here's a super fun one that a lot of people have to pay. Insurance costs for a high ratio mortgage. If you need a high ratio mortgage, you have saved less than 25%, it's actually 20 now, of the original cost of your home for a down payment. You need, it's called default insurance. Yeah, I really think it's 20%. Usually 1.25 to 3% of the total mortgage. So basically, let's say you want to buy a house for $200,000. If you don't have 20% of that ready to go in cash for a down payment, they say, ooh, you don't have a lot of money saved up. You're a little bit more of a high risk to us. We call you a high risk mortgage. And we want to take out insurance on you. Just in case you can't pay us back, we're still going to get paid by insurance. So what they do is they add a lump sum to your mortgage. And instead of owing this much on mortgage, you owe more on your mortgage. So your monthly payment goes up. It's just one more cost you have to pay. This one at least, though, you don't have to pay in cash right away. You pay it off over time over the length of your mortgage. But it's most people because a lot of people don't have 20% of their house to pay. So that one's pretty common. Land transfer tax. How fun. Of course there's taxes and things. In our province, there is a percent. It's pretty complicated. We're going to talk about that next. It's a percent of the purchase price. Where the more expensive the house is, the more we're going to have to pay. This goes towards the government. Anytime you buy or sell a property, anytime you buy a property, you're going to have to pay this land transfer tax. It's just part of it. Government wants your money, that's all. Okay. Here's the next one. Prepaid property taxes and utilities. So sometimes people pay for these things for like the whole year all at once. Some people pay it month by month. If the people before you paid the property taxes for the whole year, and then maybe they move out halfway through the year, well, you have to pay them back for the property taxes. So you're going to pay that money anyway, but if they prepaid for it, you have to pay them right now. You have to pay them back for it right now. So it's kind of money out of your pocket right now, but eventually you would have to pay that anyway. So that one's not such a big deal. It is just cash you have to have on hand, though. Okay, here's another big one. Legal fees and disbursements. Get a trusted lawyer to look after dealings with your home before offer to purchase. So I asked my realtor to suggest someone. They sent me to a lawyer who seemed pretty good. The lawyer will help you do all the legal stuff in purchasing a house. Even if you buy a house without a realtor, you still need a lawyer to help you figure out where all this money needs to get paid. They lay everything out for you. They figure out how much you have to pay for everything, and they make sure that all the details are taken care of. Okay. Not land transfer tax again. Sales tax. It is 5% on brand new homes. So if it was just brand new built, you have to pay 5% sales tax. If it has been built, someone else lived in it, and now you're living in it, you don't have to pay this. So I didn't have to pay this on my house because it's not brand new, which I like, you know. Moving expenses. Hopefully you're going to live in this home because it's supposed to be your home. You got to move. You could totally get a buddies and trucks to deal with it, or you can maybe go one step up and get a U-Haul and still get your friends, or you can pay like a moving company to do everything for you. They even pack for you if you want them to. Just how much are you willing to spend? So that costs money. Service charges. Sometimes to hook up utilities, you're going to have to pay someone to come out. Typically, most stuff are done for you now in these, in resale homes. Like if someone's already lived in there, everything's hooked up. And internet and phone, it doesn't cost anything to get them to come out, but there just might be charges. Immediate repairs. If there's anything you want to get done right away, you got to pay for it. A lot of people like to paint before they move in, so that way they don't really have to worry about all their furniture and stuff getting in the way. So that's something you might want to do. Typically, used houses, it sounds funny, but typically used houses have all the appliances in them. Sometimes people want to take some of this stuff with them, but typically it's all there. If it's a brand new house, you gotta buy all this stuff. And then decorating. Yeah, painting in here too, but if you want to, I bought this new bigger house. I had to buy a bunch more furniture because I had all this more space to fill up. So I bought a ton of furniture before I moved in, and that was not cheap. Let's flip. Okay. All right. So the house that Gerald and Amy want to buy costs $210,000. They need 5% of the purchase price for the minimum down payment, so that is the minimum 5%, and 2% of the purchase price for closing costs. So closing costs are all the things we just talked about, like the lawyer, the land transfer tax, the appraisal fees, all that stuff. It's usually around 2 or 3%. So you kind of budget for that. How much will they need for down payment and closing costs? Let's do this one part at a time. Down payment. I need 5% of $210,000. And remember, when we take of, that means multiply. And this is a percent, so we have to change it to a decimal. So 0.05 times $210,000. For this down payment, they must have $10,500 in cash ready to go. The bank needs to be able to see that amount in your account to trust that it's there so you can pay that. Closing. This one's only 2%, but at least that one goes towards equity, right? Like that's kind of a part of your investment. Closing, you just have to pay it and then it goes away and that's it. Like it's going towards the government and the lawyers and stuff. You don't get to keep this money. This one is $8,400. Let's find the total here. $18,900 you need in cash. Cash to purchase this house. It cannot be a loan. All right, so this much, at least it goes towards your investment. No, I feel like I made a mistake here. Oh, you know what? Because I did 4% earlier and I just wrote it down because I was just copying it down. Let's change this here. Sorry, $4,200. So really this is, I should probably pay more attention, shouldn't I? $14,700. There we go. I changed it to 4% in my notes. I always think you should have, let's say I told you you need to have this much saved up. You should probably have more than this, just in case, you know what I mean? You don't want to get to the end and be like, wow, I love this house, I'm ready to move in, let's go, and then, oh shoot, I don't have enough money. That'd be a terrible place to be in. All right, last part here, let's find land transfer tax. And this is kind of a complicated calculation here. It's complicated because of how the government structures how to find this tax. So here's a table. You'll be given this table because it's a lot. Okay, here we go. So if the house is only worth $30,000, you don't have to pay any land transfer tax. Or if it's just a property, maybe there's no house on it, no land transfer tax. Lovely. So up to 30,000, no tax. The next 30,000, so from 30,000 to, on the next 60,000, so from 30,000 to 90,000, you have to pay 0.5%. So if you bought a house that is worth $90,000, there's a portion that you pay no tax and a portion you pay 0.5% of tax. And then it keeps going up like that in these steps. The next 60 grand, so from 90 to 150,000, you pay 1%. So there's now 3 different areas where you pay tax. And this is where this gets complicated. There's all these steps. And where we stop is when we have calculated the value, we've gotten to the total value of the property. So here's our example. I usually make my own little table because I find that this helps me kind of keep organized, where this is value of property. Value of property. This is the rate. This will be our tax. And then last one, value used. And I'll kind of explain that as I go. Okay, so the first 30,000, I'm just kind of copying from the table up here, 30,000. The rate is 0%. So the tax would be 0. So if I had, or my first 30,000 out of this 300,000, I don't have to pay any tax. And I've used up, in quotation marks, $30,000 worth of this. So I'm thinking of this as like a big pie, and I've used up one piece of the pie already. Next value. So that's coming from here again. Now this is 60,000 this time. Don't know why they picked different values. It's not me that did that. The rate is 0.5%. Of course, we need to change that to a decimal. And there's 2 zeros because that's 0.5%, so that's that. So we're going to multiply 60,000 by 0.005%, $300 in tax. That's not a lot of money. We could probably deal with that. Now, how much of the pie have we counted up yet? We've counted up 30,000 and another 60,000. We have used up, quotation marks, $90,000 of this. And we're going to keep going until we reach 300,000. Okay? So right now, if the house was 90, we'd be done. We'd add up our taxes, that's it. But we need to keep going until 300 because that's how much our house is worth. Okay, next. This one again, 60 again. This time the rate is 1%, so 0.01. We're going to multiply 60,000 times 1% is $600. So on this portion I pay 0, this portion I pay 300, this portion I pay 600. We're going to add it up at the end. And so far, I have counted up the value in the house of 30, 60, and another 60,000. I've gotten myself up to $150,000 of value that I've counted up in the house. Okay, the next. This one, it's $50,000. And I'm just finding that from the chart right here. That's all I'm doing. This time it's 1.5%. Change that to a decimal. We're going to multiply. So $50,000 times 0.015, that's $750. I've used up $30, $60, $60, and $50,000, so I'm at $200,000. Now, when you do these questions, you'll notice that a lot of this is going to be similar for each question. It's just where we stop is going to be the question. You know, like we're going to have to go up one more step here. But if our house is only worth $200,000, this would be my answer. Okay, last one. Last thing on the chart, on amounts in excess of $200,000. So any more than 200,000, well, I need 100,000 more. So that's what I'm going to put down right here. Whoops, 300,000. So $100,000 is the piece that we're adding on here. If it said 250, I would have put $50,000 again. And this time it is 2%. We multiply, so 100,000 times 2% is $2,000. And we've gotten ourselves up to $300,000, which is where we stop because that's how much our house is worth. Last small step, we take all those taxes and we add them up. So 300 plus 600 plus 750 plus 2,000, $3,650. Not cheap. Alright, please give this a shot. Let's see how it goes and have a good night.